My name is Chris Carnes. I work for Montana's Department of Environmental Quality, and I'm an environmental scientist with the underground storage tank section. Today we're going to talk about annual walkthrough inspections. Can be completed by Class A, Class B, or Class C operators. The inspection requires the visual inspection of all containment sumps, piping sumps, transition sumps, and under dispenser containment. When inspecting the containment sumps, you want to look for any visual damage to the walls of the sumps, and you want to make sure that the bottom of the sump is clean and dry and has no debris. If there's liquid, whether it's water or a fuel-water mixture, you'll want to remove it safely with an intrinsically safe pump, like an evacuator pump or a similar style pump. Any debris must be removed. So after you're done with the inspection, it should be clean and dry. Any hazardous waste or any solid or liquid waste removed from the containment sump should be properly stored in an approved hazardous waste container, and the container should be approved for the hazardous material that it's storing. The container should also be labeled saying what type of hazardous material is inside of it, and you need to follow the local, state, and federal regulations when it comes to the storing of hazardous waste. So here we have a submersible turbine pump sump, an STP sump open, and we're going to visually inspect the inside of the sump, looking at the internal wall of the sump for any damage, any cracks, or any pinholes that may lead to a release that could escape from the containment out into the atmosphere or out into the environment. Potential leaks. Your submersible turbine is a potential leak. Your line leak detector housing is a potential leak. Oftentimes, you'll find leaks from product piping on unions or flex hoses. There's no flex hose on this line, and there's no union on this line either. But if there was a leaking line, or if this product line was leaking further on down, it would exit the primary line and enter the secondary line and leak through this interstitial space and down into the sump, where this liquid sensor would then detect the fuel level, and your automatic tank gauge would go into alarm saying that there was a fuel alarm. So any fuel that you see in here, any water in here that needs to be removed, make sure you store and label properly in a hazardous waste container, and report any suspect release within 24 hours to the hotline. Here we are about to inspect this under dispenser containment sump. You want to loosen the cabinet door to your dispenser. Open it so you can access the dispenser containment sump. And we're going to pretty much do the same thing that we did in the STP sump. We're going to look at the UDC, or the under dispenser containment, and make sure it's in good shape, that there aren't any cracks or pinholes or any damage to the sump that could result in a release to the environment. You want to make sure that it's clean and dry, and that there's not any debris at the bottom of the sump. And you're going to want to make sure that if they are using continuous interstitial monitoring, the liquid sensor is at the lowest point of the containment sump to detect a release at the earliest opportunity. You also want to look at the product lines and the shear valves. Here we have a shear valve, there's another shear valve, and another shear valve. So we have three grades here. You have a diesel, you have a premium, and you have an unleaded shear valve. In the event of somebody running over this dispenser, these shear valves will shear off, and the activation lever on the shear valve will engage and shut off the product to keep product from shooting out and into the containment and all over the ground. So you want to make sure that these shear valves are properly anchored. If they're not anchored, if someone runs over the dispenser, they won't shear off properly and it won't do what it's supposed to do, and you'll have fuel all over the ground and you will have a release. After you've inspected the under dispenser containment and you've verified that everything is the way that it should be and that it's clean and dry, the sensor's at the lowest point, and there are no visible signs of damage to the containment sump itself, you can go ahead and put the cupboard door back onto the dispenser and move on to the other dispensers and do the same thing for the rest of them. Part of the annual walkthrough inspection, if a site isn't using an automatic tank gauge for the release or leak detection method, they might have manual leak detection, which would be an automatic tank gauge or a tank gauge stick or a groundwater bailer. In this case, we have a tank gauge stick, and it should be marked at 1/8 of an inch from the bottom of the stick all the way up to the top. And notice the button on the bottom of the tank gauge stick. This should always be there. You want to look at the tank gauge stick and make sure it's in good shape, that it's not cracked or warped, and that it's in good condition. You want to ensure that all your annual and triennial testing has been completed and that it is passing, and they've been completed within the last year or 3 years. And you want to ensure that they are easily available and ready for inspection upon request.